Well, welcome back, guys, to my series of X-Men reviews leading up to Deadpool and Wolverine. Man, we are close to finishing my X-Men reviews because after this movie, we got Days of Future Past, and that is it. So we got 2 more X-Men movies to review, including this one. Today, I'm going to review the most underrated film, in my opinion, in the X-Men series. Last time I reviewed my favorite X-Men film, X-Men First Class. Now to the underrated one in my personal opinion, and that film is The Wolverine. This movie came out in 2013 and it's directed by James Mangold, who directed great movies like 310 to Yuma and Walk the Line, and after, of course, The Wolverine, directed Logan, Vol v Ferrari, and this movie stars the return of Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. Now, I was 13 years old when this movie came out, and honestly, this was my most anticipated film of that year because, again, Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, he is one of my favorite actors, of all time as a kid, and him as Wolverine, I would see any movie that has Hugh Jackman as Wolverine in it. So of course, I was anticipating for the Wolverine, but the concept of Wolverine going to Japan and fighting ninjas and samurais, how is that not awesome? That is a concept I'm like, I need to see it. And at 13 years of age, I thought that concept is really freaking awesome. The trailers really did impress me back then, and I watched the movie and I really liked the movie. I haven't saw the movie in a long time. So from the rewatch that I watched for The Wolverine now, leading up to Deadpool Wolverine, I watched all the X-Men films, even the ones that I'm not going to review. I actually find The Wolverine pretty underrated. People are kind of divisive on this one. Some people really like this movie, some people didn't like this movie. Of course, in my opinion, Logan is better than the movie, which is also directed by James Mangold. But I still think this is a really good addition to the Wolverine saga. I think this is heaps better than X-Men Origins Wolverine. That's what people are very worried about this film, saying that this could be the next X-Men Origins Wolverine because they did that movie bad. This movie is sort of like CPR Wake Up with Wolverine. This is a much better Wolverine movie than X-Men Origins Wolverine. That is no shit for that. But let's just talk about Hugh Jackman as Wolverine for a second because, man, this is to me the most badass performance that Hugh Jackman has ever brought us as Wolverine in the X-Men series with, I would say, Logan. First of all, he is completely jacked in this film. He is so ripped in this film. He looks really good for that age. And his performance in this film is really good in this film because at first Wolverine is pretty broken in this film after the loss of Jean Grey because this movie took place basically after X-Men The Last Stand, where Wolverine goes into hiding in Canada. He is now kind of homeless because he's getting away from the people he loves because he is worried that it will get them killed. So Wolverine's kind of a broken character in this situation. Until Yukio comes into play to bring Wolverine to Japan to reunite with his old friend that he saved his life all those years ago during World War II. And it's about Wolverine basically trying to become back as Wolverine, back as himself, when he's in a situation where Viper poisons Wolverine. That kind of loses a bit of his healing. He can still heal, but he slowly becomes mortal. And it creates a really good tension with Hugh Jackman's character in this film, and he is still great as Wolverine in this movie. But he also has to protect this girl named Mariko in this film, who is basically destined to become the most wealthiest and powerful woman in Japan, and people are after this character. So this is sort of like the Terminator plot where Wolverine has to protect Mariko from these bad guys. And I gotta say, in my personal opinion, I actually like the chemistry between Wolverine and Mariko in this film. I actually buy their romance in this film because their romance actually felt very natural in this film. Their chemistry is really well done in this film. At first, of course, they don't want anything to do with each other, especially Mariko. She wants to be left alone and all that stuff. She's very broken after her grandfather died in this film, who was the friend of Wolverine in the film. So it creates a really good tension with them two, and I really buy their romance. Actually more than Wolverine and Jean Grey in my personal opinion. And this is also a movie about Wolverine trying to get over the loss of Jean Grey. We get a little flashback dream sequences with Famke Janssen as Jean Grey, who I think she does a pretty well done in those sequences. But like I said, this is about Wolverine becoming Wolverine again, and with the situation that he is basically now slowly becoming mortal, it creates a very intense situation for Wolverine's character to protect this girl and also basically fighting off these bad guys. And I gotta say, guys, the action in the Wolverine is fucking phenomenal, man. There are so many great action scenes in this movie. And with Wolverine like slowly becoming immortal, it makes the action scenes actually pretty intense at a couple of moments. The bullet train sequence is a lot of fun in this film. The whole funeral fight scene is really cool in the film. But to me, this movie brings out, in my opinion, one of my favorite Wolverine fight scenes that I have seen in this series. And that is the fight between Wolverine and Shen Yan in this film, who is played by Hiroyuki Sanada. Man, this guy, every film he's in, I have to see him in, because he always plays such a badass in these films. And the fight between Wolverine and Shen Yan is one of the most badass fight scenes that I've seen in a Wolverine film. It's one of the most badass Wolverine fights that I've seen in the entire X-Men franchise. Where Wolverine got the poison out that Viper presented him and he's got his healing back. And man, that fight scene was really well filmed. It's fast paced, it's intense, the score is really good, the color palette of that fight scene is really incredible. And of course this movie has one of the best I'm this character moments in any comic book film that I've seen, with, of course, Batman Begins.
What kind of monster are you? The Wolverine.
Man, Hugh Jackman was a badass in that scene. But let's talk about some of the other characters as well. I've been talking about Hugh Jackman a lot in this review and the action scenes. Of course, Mariko is a really interesting character in this film. The actress who played her does a really good job. But I also love Yukio in this film. Her character is actually a badass in this film, but her character is very interesting. She has a mutation of predicting people's futures, but when they die, and I thought it creates really good tension with her and Wolverine in the film, and I think they have an excellent friendship, brother-sister type chemistry, and she is a badass during the action scenes of this film. She's probably the most underrated X-Men character in my opinion. She's a really badass character. Of course, Hiroyuki Sanada, already explained, he's a really cool character in the film. But also, we got Viper in this film, which in my opinion is kind of like one of the problems with the movie. I thought her character is way too cartoonish and way too over the top. She's extremely attractive, I'll give her credit. She's really good to look at in this film. But her character is definitely playing a very cartoonish villain. And there are some characters that I wish could have got much more exploration and much more, you know, character development. Especially Harada in this film, who is kind of like the Asian Hawkeye in this film. I thought his character is very interesting, but I wish his character could have got much more exploration, because he's really cool with the action scenes in the film, like the chase between Wolverine and Mariko just running away from the goons and Harada just shoots bow and arrows and killing people. That moment I'm like, this character's badass. I wish we could have got much more exploration with the character. But I would say the first two acts are great in my personal opinion. It explores Wolverine trying to get over the loss of Jean Grey and becoming Wolverine again, and also dealing with the situation that Wolverine is becoming slowly mortal because of how poisoned he is from Viper. So it creates really good tension with the action scenes and even just the development of Wolverine in general. But the third act comes in, the final action scene of the movie between Wolverine and Super Samurai, and that is when the film kind of goes a little bit goofy. It is still entertaining to watch. I'm not saying it ruins the film or anything. It ruins the serious side and the drama of this film. It just became like a comic book film at the end where Wolverine fights Super Samurai. It's still a really fun scene, especially the scene where Super Samurai just literally swords and cuts off Wolverine's claws. That is a pre-tension moment. But it kind of just changes the vibes of like how serious and very dark the Wolverine was. Which of course we need a final battle somewhere between a villain, but I thought Super Samurai is a very terribly CGI'd villain. You can tell he is special effects in the film. And of course the reveal that he is actually the old friend that Wolverine came to say goodbye to, and also the grandfather to Mariko in the film. It's obvious, like that twist. It's very, very obvious, and it makes the scene much more goofier, and then Wolverine just assembles his bone claws at the end. But just the third act kind of overall changes the vibe of the Wolverine. But that is it, guys, because I'm gonna say, overall, The Wolverine is a pretty underrated X-Men film in my personal opinion. I think the concept of Wolverine fighting ninjas and samurais is really freaking awesome in the film. The setting, it's sort of like a fish out of water story for Hugh Jackman's character, but the overall look of Japan feels like a character on its own. But Hugh Jackman is fantastic as Wolverine. The other characters throughout the most part are really good in the film. I love the story about Wolverine becoming Wolverine again after the broken loss of Jean Grey. I thought that aspect is very interesting in the film. But James Mangold absolutely directed the Wolverine very, very well. I would say the Wolverine is one of those X-Men movies where I'm like, I feel like this movie should get more credit than it deserves. It's not a perfect movie. The third act overall kind of changes the tone of the movie and becomes very, very goofy, and Viper is very goofy in the film, and I wish there was more character development with other characters in the film. But this is a very essential Wolverine film, and I think The Wolverine is a pretty underrated film from James Mangold, and he later on directed Logan, which is, in my opinion, even better. But The Wolverine is definitely a very solid Wolverine film that I would say, you know what? If I'm having a Wolverine marathon, I would be happy to watch The Wolverine before Logan. So yes, The Wolverine, in my opinion, is a pretty underrated X-Men film. I really enjoyed The Wolverine.
What they did to me. What I am. Can't be undone. Don't be so sure. I'm not healing like before.
His flesh is weak now.
Eternity can be a curse. A man can run out of things to live for.
That day ain't here yet.
So guys, that is my review for The Wolverine. Let me know what you think of this film in the comments below. And we're up to one more X-Men review, guys. My next X-Men review, my last X-Men film that I'm going to review is X-Men Days of Future Past. That's going to be my last X-Men film leading up to Deadpool and Wolverine. So look forward to that. So guys, let me know in the comments below what you think of Wolverine. Do you like the movie, hate the movie, or you thought it was okay? Just let me know in the comments below. Make sure you guys follow me on social media links down below. Keep contact with me, and make sure you guys subscribe to my channel for my latest movie reviews and other movie related content. Thank you guys so much for watching, and have a nice day.